Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Countdown. So many TikTok. A lot of people are apprehensive. Some are looking forward to it, and some are asking, will it really hold? But I do know that from the words of INEC, we know the election will hold. But you have been in Anambra, and what do you feel is the pulse of the people?
Well, let me start by, yesterday some friends from Anambra, they left this morning for the village, for the state, because I have been talking to them for the past 2 weeks. If you don't effect a change, nobody makes. It's not enough to want to say something. For any change, you must face it. There's nothing you can achieve without facing it. You know. So I must first say that when they asked me about this thing happening to us, how do we revenge? I said, no, don't go to that extent. That the best form of revenge is not to be like the person who performed the act in the first place. And that there's no revenge as complete as forgiveness. That they should live with us someday, somehow. Everybody must sit at a banquet to face the consequences of his action. How it will happen, I don't know. So it's not just enough that things are happening in the South. The whole country now is embroidered in a near civil war. We're just talking about now University of Abuja and other isolated cases. So now it will be iPod or Mosop. It has to make it, give it some glory, some meaning, beautiful meaning. It has to be iPod. But you know, for the past 2 months, I've been saying, what is it Nnamdi Kanu has done that is anything comparative or comparable to the bandits or the herdsmen, and all of them that on a daily basis consistently kill people? And government has not proscribed bandits, even as the governor of Katsina State and speakers of states in this country have requested. They have not done that. Herdsmen are being glorified. Mietiala is the mouthpiece. They have authority to denounce Southern governors, and nothing has happened. So I tell my people, let us go back home and look at the candidates, because the election has now gone beyond Mr. A or Mr. B. I mean, Party A or Party B or Party D. No. The basic survival of the Igbos is now at stake. We're now going to search out who are the quintessential opportunists we have among them. Who amongst them are surreptitiously working for those who are oppressing us? A lot of things are happening, and we have said most of our retired officers have been working to find out whether these candidates are really honest. 18 of them saying they are running for governorship. That is not a local government business. It is a serious thing to run the affairs of a state. And Imo has fallen. Ebonyi is trying to fall, but thank God all the top politicians there have said no. So if Anambra falls too, that's they complete whatever is on the agenda. But you see, when I was listening, this morning on your press review, before I come to your question, how do you see in a country where you don't really know who is in control? But now it's getting clear who is in control. Because the Attorney General of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who some years back, the president nominated somebody as chairman of EFCC, the Attorney General wrote a petition to the National Assembly. No, don't confirm him. He's corrupt. He's this. 2 months after, the same president of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, renominated the same person. And the same Attorney General wrote a petition again. He sits on his seat. And nothing has happened to him. So you start to wonder, what really is going on? This can happen in any civilized country. This same Attorney General seriously asked for state of emergency to be declared in Anambra State, as if anything happened in Anambra has any relationship with the tragedy, befalling our brothers and sisters in about 3 or 4 states in the north. So what I'm saying is that we're now closing down. Yesterday in Lagos, I met with top, if you know anybody who is anybody in Anambra State, they all left this morning going home to discuss, and I told them where I was going to. That most of them are qualified. I've nothing against anybody. But I had started looking at the candidates. 2, 3 weeks ago, I reduced them to 3. What do they call that party? The Zenith Labour Party, PDP, and ABGA. And I said, Zenith has a problem. Brilliant, sharp, well qualified. But because of the crisis we're passing through, we don't want to create more internal problems than we can cope with. Because this government has already beaten more than it can chew. If we have been saying A do, B will follow, C will follow, you don't complicate it. Don't, you know, people look there, they are desperate for power. Allow, when it's the turn of your state, I mean your zone, you go and contest. And I have most of them visited me, spent hours. I said, go and support somebody else. 8 years is always around the corner. You know, people think that 8 years is somewhere going to London on foot. Soon, 8 years goes, and you can run.
You know, Chief Olassi, this your zoning principle and your stance on zoning.
Yes.
I say your zoning and your stance on zoning in Anambra politics. Many people are questioning when exactly this zoning started. I remember I asked you this question earlier, and I'm asking it again because I remember you were the DG of Ifeanyi Ubah campaign organization. I think it was in 2013.
Yes.
Yes, when the election was said to have been zoned.
2013?
When was that?
Well, about that, it's about,
about that,
9 years ago.
Yes, so when, but then the zoning thing was, I mean, the governorship was zoned to the north at the time. And Andy Ubah, I mean, Ifeanyi Ubah is from the south.
If you remember,
but you were the DG, and other people also contested from other zones.
Yes.
So that's why people are actually asking what this zoning is all about, because every zone seems to have contested at every election.
You know, each time I talk about zoning, I give an exception. If you remember the last time I appeared there, I said, it's not a constitutional matter. Everybody has a right to run for an election. I said, it is a convenient matter. It was Peter Obi who started talking about zoning. And I was one of the people privileged. He called me at a breakfast at Government House and said, Dan, this is what I want to do. If we don't do this, a section like Anambra North, we never have governorship. And that will be a problem because they don't have resources to fight. That the central and the south will always, you know, have an upper hand. And I looked at it. I said, now tell me, how do we do it? If they don't have money, how do we do it? He said, well, that is why he's appealing to me that I can reach a lot of people who have money. Let's look for a good candidate. You know. So what he did then was that he set up a committee in Anambra North, headed by Dr. Menaka, and they brought out a candidate, and he twisted it. That was how religious politics started. Because the person they brought out, whom they thought was a very qualified, was an Anglican. So he twisted it. That was how Obiano emerged. And most people got annoyed. So when Ifeanyi Ubah and some others came, I said, you can run if you want. It's not a constitutional matter. But you know, when that worked and Obiano became governor, it became a fait accompli. He did his first term, completing his second term. Now, the argument now is because Ngige had gone to 3.5 years from Central. If Peter Obi did 8 years from Central, that's about 11.5 years or thereabout. Only from the South was Mbadnuju, who did 4 years before he was kicked out. So it is natural that the Central had gone, the North is completing 8 years, it's coming down to the South. And you will now see that all the parties, apart from Zenith Labour, who is a new party, have brought out their candidate from the South. So people are now absorbing the fact that it is convenient and makes for peace for this thing to go from one zone to the other so that nobody will feel exclusion. That is the theory, not that it is, nobody is being stopped.
Meaning it wasn't an issue before P2B's...
Just let me finish, because something is significant. For all those who abused that zoning, they all lost the elections, including my brother, that you mentioned that I was chairman of his campaign. Because people at the grassroots now feel it is, I think this is a good idea. Oh yeah, just I mean, you finish it, and somebody else goes. So it makes for this sense. And I gave an example of my town, where we have the richest people in this country. If it wasn't organized, now Otolo goes, Uragu goes, Umudin goes, and the other Newish goes, and it is peaceful. Once it is your turn, every party goes there to bring out a candidate, and you're telling people you're not insignificant. You're not, you know, nobody is more qualified than the other. There's no place in this country you don't have very qualified people, unless when they decide to bring out their third 11, then it becomes a problem, which is what we're now seeing in the country.
All right, let's go to, because again, we are counting down to the election. For a lot of people, their minds are masterminded around the level of security for that day.
Yes.
You know, the issue, you talked about justice, you talked about equity. The MASOP comes out to their IPOB to say, you know, there won't be any sit-at-home election, must hold. IPOB comes out to say, oh, we insist on no voting on that day. for the people, this is sending mixed signals. One, the youths are saying, where exactly do we toll? How is the conversation being built within the politics? Because again, I mean, I know there's a peace accord that was supposed to be done somewhere along the line within some political party architecture. But beyond the politics and the politicians, it is the people who come out to vote. What are we looking at in terms of the conversation to, you know, assuage, you know, demystify the fear, because there is really a palpable fear for coming out to vote, and we cannot run away from that.
Well, thank you for this very important question. I don't know, I've not met in recent times, I've not met anybody who says it's iPod, to be honest. I met Nnamdi Kanu more than 15, 20 years ago at the house of my late in-law, Dr. Dozie Kedife, when he was the president of Ohaneze Ndibo. That was when I met him. And he spoke so brilliantly. Then they haven't, you know, escalated to the point they reached now. I haven't met Mossop. I don't know what they do. But the principles of what they talk about, I believe in. It is the methodology, sometimes I differ. And I tell them, it would be stupid for anybody to say there will be no election in Anambra State, because you give those oppressing us the opportunity to put in somebody that we don't like, the people don't like. Because of it, I had several meetings in Enugu, in Lagos, and last night, and people are trooping home. I said, all the villages, people are in control of people. Call them and give them the reasons why we must go out to vote. Don't mind the guns and tanks moving around. This thing will take about 2-3 hours and the day is gone. Go out and vote for whomsoever you want to vote for. There's no other thing, there's nothing else we can do than to go out to vote, to register a point. Register a point about the injustice that Nnamdi Kanu is fighting for. And the matter has been further worsened by the attempted arrest or whatever they wanted to do in Justice Mary Odili's house. So people have been calling me from all over the world. You've been. I said, oh, no, I don't know. It is a matter of natural inspiration or spiritual inspiration. That I said, these people are heading to somewhere. Only God knows where they are heading to. Look at one of the most brilliant judges in this country, a princess of the East, and she's representing not River State where she's married. She's representing the Southeast in the Supreme Court. Because they feel that when this president judge that they smuggled in goes away, that she's the next in line. And so they want to rubbish her. The idea is to rubbish her, put her in bad light, so that they'll say, they done this and that they did with Justice or somebody. You know, and they rubbished him. He went off. They want to rubbish. I say it will not happen. This Mary Odili will make or mar this country. And I warn that they have to be very, very careful. This is no more a matter of arresting Nnamdi Kanu. This situation is the most situation the Southeast is going to face, and this country is going to face. Because why must this rubbish continue to happen? Why must this rubbish continue to happen in this country?
Chief, okay, we're digressing a bit from
yeah, but it is, why I'm saying this is it is part of why sort of I'm going to analyze where I suspect our people should vote. Because we need people now who will have a voice. It's not just having a governor. You know, I normally lay foundation for what we are so oppressed now, faced by the government of this country, that we need, look at, since Odili's house was invaded, the governor of Rivers State has taken elders and spoken. Has the governor of Imo State said anything? The state where she comes from. Has the governor of Imo State said anything? These are the elements being used to destroy Igbo land, and we must stop them. By the grace of God, we must stop them. This nonsense has to stop. It has to stop. So this is why I'm looking at the candidates now to say, who is it that has the capacity? Being qualification is no more, I mean, it doesn't mean anything to me. Everybody there in one form or the other is qualified. But will you have courage to say that this is bad when you see a bad thing? Will you have courage? This is what is important. Will you be able, you don't need to challenge the federal government to tell them what you're doing is wrong. You don't need to challenge them. I mean, Akere Dolu wasn't challenging them, the same party, but he told them what you're doing is bad. Apart from the Enugu governor, how many others have the courage to do it? So when I look at the three candidates I've reduced from APC, I mean, sorry, I didn't mention APC because for me it's non-existent. I mean, it's not running for this election.
But it's a contending party.
You will see on Saturday. Excuse me, he's a contending for what? Excuse me. You see, I want you to be very clear about what I'm saying. In the situation where we are, where Nnamdi Kanu is languishing in prison, and now they have added the crisis of Mary Odili, there's no APC person who will have the courage to open his mouth and say, we'll go and vote for you, when it is your government and party that is oppressing the Southeast.
But your lawmakers are the campaign to the APC.
That is what again I'm coming to. This is the nature of the human being. If any Igbo man leaves whatever party he is in to join APC, he is part of the oppressors.
Why?
He is asking me why.
Yes, why?
Because that party, he has a constitutional right to move from party A to party.
Absolutely.
But not when the place you are going to is preparing a war against your people. Then something must be wrong.
That's in the realm of, Chief, that's in the realm of speculation. When you say
what is speculative about this realm? Tell me that I, today, a member of PDP, without any cost, because there's a constitutional process for you to leave your party in the first place. Is there any faction in ABGA? Is there any faction in PDP? This is it tells you the level of disorder in the society. And the truth for one beneficial approach, or those who, if EFCC have threatened with one thing or the other, they run across. Was that why we voted for them? Did we vote for them to go and steal? And when EFCC shows you a card, you run over to a party? Did you consult those who voted for you before you did that? You have your constitutional right to move. We also have a constitutional right to demand that we voted for you. And they haven't consulted us before.
But Chief, this thing you're saying is, well, I mean, you have a right of order to express that in your own candidness. But again, when people are investigated, it takes a precedence. It takes a trajectory. People don't just, you know, overnight become corrupt. And again, people would say a lot of the people who are defecting and are being investigated for issues that perhaps was also discovered whilst they were in serving capacity under the party which they are leaving. So if they are defecting to another party to seek succor, you know, one would wonder, you know, what protection their party is also giving them to deny them the right of moving to that other party. Because again, it's about interest.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You know, I did mention either in the last or second to last appearance on this network that I don't blame most of them, because you remember after the PDP primary, I was here. I said it's the most corrupt primary ever seen in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Between about 3 or 4 candidates, they would have spent over 2 billion. And yet the National Party, that's why I'm supporting the removing secondaries and all the rest of them. Terribly corrupt party. They milked the people, promised everybody that you were going to get nomination. That made some of them leave, like the people who
That's your
Labour.
party, Chief Olasi.
Sorry? No, please don't make it personal. That is my party. I'm not in the national executive of PDP. I'm just an ordinary member of the party. What they do in the national, they don't consult anybody to do that. And that was why I come, each time I come on television to say that what they are doing is wrong. That is the most I can do as an honest party man. If your candidates are looking for nomination to go and run election against other parties, and you milk them, you finish them at that primary level, at the end of the day, they don't have money to go and face other parties in the election. This is the consequences they don't understand. And that is why I condemn it. And this is why some of them left and went to other parties. And I don't blame those who go to other parties. But I talk of, if you have a problem and you know where your problem is. Okay, look at APC we're talking about. In this country, everybody, including INEC, including your network, reported that there was no primary in Anambra State. But the party adopted him. So this person leaving his party to jump into where there was no primary at all, there must be something, an underlying factor that we're not seeing. And it is this APC, the party and government, that is now doing what everybody is crying about in the Southeast. We know whom the enemy is, if I might use that word. We know the source of the problem. So if I have to run to the source of the problem against my people, then I must be, people have to look at me with a second eye.
All right.
That's what I'm saying. Not that anything is wrong in their move. They can move. But you can't move from your house to your enemy's house. And then you come back. What do you tell your family?
All right, Chief, let's get back to the election proper in Anambra State. We saw 3 candidates, you know, engage in a debate a few days ago. and so many questions were put to them, and we saw the attacks and counterattacks during that debate. But one of the issues that was raised is this issue of insecurity and how they can be addressed, particularly when it comes to the Nnamdi Kanu case. And most of them, or even all of them, agreed that there should be some kind of form of dialogue in trying to, bring back peace that seemed to have eluded the state. Do you think that should be an option to toe?
Well, if you watched that program very well, you see that some of them talking from both sides of their mouth. I asked somebody to replay and see what Andy Uba was talking about. For each sentence, any question that was, he never spoke more than 1 minute. And he stopped. It is good to dialogue with you. Is it the party you are representing that is holding Nnamdi Kanu in prison, attacking Mary Odili's house? So if you become governor in Anambra State, you don't tell Buhari, don't be very careful, don't do this. You say because you have the military, you're in command of SS, that is dishonesty. Because amongst the three of them standing there doing that debate, he said it there, Professor Shah Soludo was the only one who had gone to Kuje prison to visit Nnamdi Kanu one way he was held first, and joined in a negotiation that led to his release. That meant something to me. That showed me a level of courage. That showed me a level of leadership. That showed me that all is not lost. That it's not just about being governor. I'm qualified. All of them there had left the university before they finished secondary school. What's his qualification? Degree is not what. Now my people are facing a most precarious situation in their life. And I have told all big boys that for now, we have to look at both the phenotypic and genotypic content of anybody who will be governor in the South. Is not just Anambra. We will use Anambra as a test case on Saturday. And I'm praying, asking most Anambra people, resultant in what I have seen, that Soludo must be put forward to go and redirect and join Enugu governor and others, because our people have a saying, when enemies surround you, then you have to watch your compound. Because what is now happening is escalating. It's escalating. If we had rested the case with Nnamdi Kanu, we said, oh, because he said this, has spoken words in this country meant anything anywhere? But how about people taking action, killing? Bandit is now a regular killing virtue, kidnapping. I just pray God that people should be even more careful.
But Chief,
now that they have entered Abuja, we have to be very, very careful.
Absolutely. Thank you for that note of warning. Again, leveraging on the debate, Nkoli said something significant. You know, you listen to the debate, you can understand, the caliber of leadership, that we have putting their best foot forward. Yeah. And you have spoken about, Soludo talking about visiting Nnamdi Kanu, even if it was just once. However, a lot of people would also be expecting in that line of leadership and thought that he would also be talking to the IPOBians and those young people who are also within that network to redirect the key to the right door. And why I say that is, the more there is anarchy, the more there is a confusion, and the buck stops at their table, because everyone would think that whatever happens as far as banditry, kidnapping, or all kinds of mayhem will be dropped at the door of IPOBians. Can you not also, in the same vein, whoever is the candidate, speak to the youth, the young people who are also creating the violence within the network, to cease fire?
I must tell you sincerely, this is not what I'll discuss in a public view like this. A lot of us are making serious effort to reach whatever is the iPod network, MASOP, protesting people for whatever reason. This idea of not sitting at home on every Monday, I went beyond the call of duty to travel across the 5 Igbo states. If I'm told that Adora has authority or has a resemblance or a relationship to an iPod something or MASOP, we went. About 3 or 4 of us. We went throughout this, and then that was when they stopped and gave instruction. We don't ask anybody now to sit at home on Mondays, unless the day he's been taken to court. But Igbos have now gotten, it's now a ritual. They have afraid, self-inflicted fear. Because go around on a Monday, nobody touches you. Nobody. We stop that. And we're using the same mechanism to let them know that if this election is not held, it is not to the advantage of Igbos and not to their own advantage. What do they want to achieve by saying there will be no election? And I think some of them are listening. So with the domination of military forces in Anambra State, it will also help.
Now, if they are listening, one would have expected that a simple statement from IPOB today, tomorrow, a day to the election, to say no more sit at home.
I won't tell them
we
how
have
they
withdrawn
will do it,
our order. Everybody come out
I pray
to
they
vote.
do what you have just suggested. It will be a convenient way to do it. But whether they do it or not, there will be an election. And nobody will be hurt by the grace of God.
Could it also be sensible to say that every time that there is an attack or there is an invasion or an act of banditry and it is put at the bulk of IPOP's table, that they could also come out, if they are not responsible, to refute? Because
they have done that severally. Oh, they have done that severally. After all, the Attorney General said they were responsible for NSAS, and they denied it. People accused them that they were responsible for attacking up of Lagos, but they denied it. Later, the military said it wasn't true, that they weren't responsible. So, there are lots of claims and counter-claims in this country that you don't know the one you deny. You enter the social media, there's nothing you don't see there. And you don't expect them to be on television like I am now talking. But all I know that they are human beings, they are Igbos, they don't live in the moon. We look at people, who is this, who is that? Where do they come from? How can we reach? Because people are supporting them. And I tell you, they have more than 80% support across Igbo land. Serious support. The only thing that some people don't like their methodology, because it's not affecting our business and other factors of living in one way or the other. But you don't have to, because somebody asked for justice for his people, you put a gun on his head. That is not the way to do. Because every agitation, every protest is a catalyst for dialogue. But this is not a government that is prepared to dialogue with anybody.
All right, let's still look at the chances of the candidates at this election. Yes. I know before now you narrowed it to 3. Are you still having those 3 as the major contenders for
I have narrowed it down to 2 now. The PDP candidate, Valos, who is very good. And then the ABGA candidate, Professor Charles Soludo. And I have said, because of the problems facing us now, who among the 2 of them? Because you see what people will tell, like I was in a meeting in Lagos yesterday, and people told me that there are problems with the PDP candidate, and that's my party. So I am now living beyond party. I'm looking at the survival of my people. So I'm not interested whether you are a PYY or DCC. I'm looking at somebody who will have the courage to look at this government and have the courage to tell them, what you're doing is wrong. It is the most we can do is to use our mouth to defend our people. That's the most we can do.
Wouldn't that be regarded as anti-party activities?
I don't care what they regard it as. The survival of my people is more important than PDP. The survival of Igbos, they can jump into River Niger for all, and in fact, if they save Cham, I will resign. I don't need them. I don't need them. They need me. And I'll help to determine what will happen on Saturday in Anambra, because I want the survival of my people. More important to me than which party? The one that they are fighting. Who will be this?
They have held a convention. Your party has held a convention and have mended fences at the moment.
They claim they have mended until we see the fences fully mended. Because once we start cutting, it's difficult to sew back. This problem has been in the PDP for a very long time. We joined the QMA to form this party, so none of them will tell me about PDP. I know it inside out. I've been in the national executive, haven't been a state chairman.
Chief, this may attract punitive measure for you, being in a party and
I don't know why you're interested in that part of your question, punitive measure.
You know why I'm asking this?
Yes, why are you asking that? When I'm telling you about that the interest of Igbos is more important to me than the party. It's a simple way to answer your question. What is party punitive for what? Am I a thief? Did you see me at the national convention? Did you see me there? Have they spoken about what the government is doing to my people as a political party? Have they spoken to condemn the federal government about what is happening in the southeast? They haven't done that.
Chief, let me just come in here, because talking about the federal government, institutions, elections, we saw what George Mogalu, took the APC to court, especially with the Andy Ubah's emergence. I think they're still in the Abuja High Court. Judgment is to come on the election day. And some of his prayers was to delist the APC and also refund all expenses of the aspirants and pay him 100 million in damages beyond that. But, you know, why I'm bringing this up, you talked about party, you talked about statesmanship, you talked about, you know, state interest. Isn't it time that we also generally, not just you as a person, but as a country, adopt that country first approach than party first approach?
But thank God you brought up the case of George Moralo. He is managing director of one of the biggest parastatals in this country, and had courage to tell this country and his party that there was no primary in Anambra State. Dr. Chris Ngige, who is a minister in this government and formed APC with Buhari, had courage to tell the whole country that there was no primary. The INEC of Nigeria said that there was no primary, that they went everywhere to monitor, and there was nobody standing in any line anywhere. And the governor of Oyo State, who was Andy's PA when he was a special assistant to Obasanjo, and finally he put him into Corporate Affairs Commission. You know, what I told George Morgan, that people were short-sighted. As soon as the name of Oyo governor was mentioned, I told them that Andy Uba will be a candidate. They said it's over their dead body. Is it now over their dead body? I said, this boy was his boy. He put him into Corporate Affairs Commission. From there, the boy made so much money and entered into serious business, became governor. And whatever, Andy didn't tell him. They probably would have told their national chairman, who is also a governor, that he wanted to go and give a free primary in Anambra State, and they put him there. He stayed in a hotel in Imo and wrote the result and left. Today, that election has held. This is why I'm shouting about Anambra, that we must not allow that kind of thing to repeat itself. We will not allow what happened in Imo to repeat itself. And therefore, we need our people to go home, everybody manning his local government, his ward, to make sure that reasonable, honest Igbos are elected, not those who are surreptitiously working for the government that is oppressing our people. Because most of them you see walking about, talking about, I hear now about 10 of them still asking for the release of what is it, Nnamdi Kanu.
All right, Chief,
because they are being treated wherever they go on campaign.
But we have to end it there. Thank you so much for your insights, for review, and the call for people first. And like we say, I think that right now,